Hello, I'm Sarah from SRTT and I help busy people make self-care a priority. You're listening to Conversations with Sarah, and today I'm joined by Leah Hyne of Leah Hyne Yoga to have a conversation about yoga. Hello.
Hi, Sarah.
Hiya. Thank you for joining me. I don't know if you wanted to introduce yourself a little bit, just let people know sort of who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Leah Hyne and my business is Leah Hyne Yoga, and I qualified as a yoga teacher in December after a year-long course, and now I am teaching mainly online, mostly kind of due to the pandemic, but also that was kind of my aim anyway, is to be an online teacher. So yeah, I've got my online business where I'm doing my membership, courses, live classes, and I've got a YouTube channel. So just kind of getting everything out there online at the minute.
Brilliant.
So,
Yeah. Like you
yeah.
say, with the pandemic, a lot of us have really have to shift our business. And I think, being online is the place to be at the moment because that's the only place anybody can get hold of us.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people think of yoga classes as just kind of in person to kind of get the feel for it. But actually, there is a lot that you can get from doing it online. It's the same. You can get, a really good yoga class online. And I think, yeah, right now with the pandemic, a lot of people need something like yoga.
Definitely. So what got you into yoga?
I think this is how a lot of people get into it. I actually got into it from the fitness side. So I was doing Pilates classes online because, this is one of the main reasons I wanted to do my yoga online, is because that's how I got into it. And I think if I do it that way, that's probably how other people are going to. So I was doing Pilates online, and then the Pilates teacher I was doing her classes, she did a little bit of yoga. And I was like, oh, I like this, like the stretching, the calmness after it. And then I went on to Instagram, as you do, and you're looking at, like, you type in yoga and all these beautiful people come up with all these poses of like handstands on the beach, and it looks absolutely amazing and just draws you in. And then I noticed on Instagram that they do yoga competitions a lot. So I started entering the competitions, like doing the poses. So I definitely got into it from a kind of a fitness and competitive kind of view. But then, once you start going to these yoga classes and you realize the benefits from them, like the calmness, how it de-stresses you, how it can change your mindset, that is what drew me in and kept me in. And then I got pregnant, and there was this whole new world. So yeah, I thought, you know what, I love this. It was the thing that was keeping me sane, keeping me de-stressed, definitely helped me out in them first couple of years with my daughter. And I thought, right, I need to share this with the world. I need to teach this. So yeah, I signed up and did my yoga teacher training.
I think that's like when you've got a passion for something, when you've experienced it yourself, and that you get that passion. I've been on your YouTube and I've had a kind of little look around, and I really like how you set it up, like where it corresponds with the chakras. So for me, that really resonates, like the spiritual side. So I'm really interested to hear more about the spiritual side. I'd like to hear a bit about the physical stuff, but maybe we can come back around to that. So like, what's the spiritual side of yoga?
Yes, good question. So obviously, yeah, I got into it from the fitness side and I had no idea about any of this. And then once I started my yoga teacher training, that was just information overload. And it was amazing. It was just like my mind kind of, opened up to this world of yoga that I had no idea even existed. So most of it, on my YouTube, like you said, I've got the chakra system, so in our bodies, we've got lots of chakras, but we've got 7 main ones running up from the bottom of the pelvis all the way to the top of your head. And if you're going to look at it in a anatomy kind of way, you've got all the nerve endings that kind of group in these places. So trying to describe this correctly, I say way back in the day, before scientists and all of this, is where everybody was talking about the subtle anatomy. So this is the chakra system, this is the more spiritual side. And they all knew that there was something to do with these chakras that can help our bodies. And well, they just knew that there was these energy points. And at the time, they didn't really know kind of what they were. And then as we come to modern day, you know, scientists and everybody have figured out that that is actually where there's a lot of nerve endings. So it kind of, it does relate with the, you know, normal anatomy as well. With the subtle anatomy, and it's all kind of linked together. And yeah, so my YouTube, I've kind of based it on the chakras, because a lot of people, these different chakras work different parts of the body. They can work with different emotions, different mindsets. And if you're new to all this, obviously you're not going to understand which one you need to work for. So I've kind of set it out simply, like if there's a particular thing you need to work on, you know, like if you're struggling with talking, communication, you probably want to work on your throat chakra. It kind of makes sense when you think about it like that. But there are a lot of nerves around that area that, you know, when you are moving them around, can open up these passageways to let energy flow to actually help with that. I don't know if I've explained that the best.
Yeah. I mean, well, I say yes. It makes complete sense to me because I'm trained in energy healing. But I think it makes sense. I guess people will let us know. If not, we've got other people coming on to talk about energy healing. So as we go through sort of the podcasts, hopefully it makes more sense to people. But yeah, definitely, like as I looked on your YouTube, I was like, oh yeah, that really resonates for me. Bringing that spiritual side like in more with the physical side, because I've done yoga before years and years and years ago, and purely focused on it from the physical perspective. And even with my energy healing and like the stuff that I know, I've never really thought about it in that way. So to see it on your YouTube, I was like, oh yeah, that's really interesting. I really like how you've kind of tied it up. It tied it up and makes sense. So what, like how does yoga help the body then?
Well, obviously I was going to say the main thing, but what a lot of people realize is obviously moving the body. It can be very physical, which obviously helps keep your body healthy, but it helps with strength, flexibility, balance, you know, and not just balances in physically, like balancing the mind and the body. So, you know, you get on the mat to, you know, the main point of yoga is to move the body for meditation. That's what yoga was made for, is to move the body, get out all the energy, or kind of control the energy so that you can sit in meditation for a while. Nowadays, that's not really why a lot of people do yoga. They do like getting the benefits afterwards, you know, the calmness in the shavasana. But when you're on your mat, I think there's so much that goes into the classes that people might not even realize with the physical movements. You know, the yoga teachers they've always got a hidden agenda in their classes. They're always saying little things that they stick in your mind, and you know, you take that off of the mat as well. And I think that's where it connects with the mind and the body. You know, you're saying things like focusing in on your breath. You know, when you're in a balanced pose, and it's like focusing on that breath, feel that grounding. And that's the kind of thing that you can then take off of the mat. You know, if you're feeling a little bit stressed and a little bit uneased in whatever you're doing, you know, if you're an anxious person, and you're starting to get a little bit anxious and stressed, you know, then that might suddenly come up for you to feel grounded, focus on my breath. So it's connecting everything together and kind of letting you experience it everywhere, putting it all together.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know why I'd never thought about it like that. I think because when I did yoga before, it was very physical based. So it was very much about fitness. It was very much about movement, of like flexibility, becoming leaner, and sort of thinking it from that point of view. And it was before I did sort of the spiritual training that I've done. And like for me now, because I've got sort of chronic health conditions that mean it just seems a bit of an effort. But what I've realized from sort of, I've tried to follow some of your yoga and fit that into my routine, and I'm kind of coming back to realizing that it doesn't, I don't have to do like an hour workout, starting, because I did one of your 10-minute ones, so starting with that 10 minutes for me has been brilliant, because it's achievable. It's something that I can fit into my day, and like you say, it's that balance and that connection. It's so important. I go on about meditation, I go on about sort of connecting with what's inside and using the breath and all of that stuff with my work, but it's like, even though I know about yoga, I'd never thought to connect it.
Exactly. And I love the fact that, especially with YouTube or anywhere really, like, it's okay to have the different timed classes. Like, if you've only got 10 minutes is great. You know, you can work up to it, or you can only do 10 minutes. It's still you're still giving yourself that time to just shut out the rest of the world and focus in on yourself. And like that is what yoga is doing. You're calming your mind and focusing on that exact moment, nothing else. You're forgetting about the rest of your day and just focusing on you. And I think so many people struggle to do that, like, especially nowadays. You know, we've all got phones, we're just constantly looking at our phones, or, you know, it's very rare that we actually take the time to just calm the mind.
So how often, like, would you be recommending to someone, like, to be doing their yoga practice? Like, someone who has never done yoga before, this is the first time that they've heard about it, and they're thinking, well, yeah, this sounds quite interesting, but, you know, when am I going to do this? How am I going to do it? What do you suggest? Where do they start?
I would say, if they're new to it depends how much time they've got, but I would say definitely start with at least like 1 hour class, because the hour-long classes is where you're going to feel the major benefit from it. Whereas if you're just doing a 10-minute, you might think, oh, I don't know if this is for me, because you're not getting that full benefit. Once you understand kind of what yoga is and how it can benefit you, you kind of, going into the 10-minute ones, you already kind of get your mindset there ready. But yeah, I think just anywhere, any time that you've got, just try to do some, even if that is 10 minutes a day. You know, if you can't do a full hour, just do 10 minutes a day, because it will start to help. And obviously it depends on everybody, what you've got going on. Like, I know when I really got into it was when my daughter was little, and she would only nap for 20 minutes. So, you know, I got a 10-minute yoga practice in, and it definitely helped. But, you know, even if once a week, once every other day, just whenever you can fit it in. Anything
at any time, just kind of getting it in there and getting it in as a part of life. One of the things I say, if you're like too busy to be doing anything, that's exactly when you should be doing it. Like, if you're too busy to take time out and invest in your self-care, that is when you should be scheduling time for yourself, because that's when you need it more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a good quote that's going around on the internet, isn't it? That's if you haven't got time for 5 minutes of meditation, you need an hour of meditation, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you say that life has been different for you, like off the mat, with you using your yoga practice?
I would say it has been very different. I think before, I mean, maybe it's also becoming a yoga teacher for me, because it's kind of as if you found your purpose. You know, you found something that you love, that you want to share. So, you know, you are going to feel happier in your life doing something that you love doing. But yeah, taking it off of the mat, you know, when I come to these stressful points with now a nearly 4-year-old, happens quite often, you know, you can just take a minute to take a deep breath, to let it go, and to carry on. And I think you understand more, you start learning about yourself when you're on the mat. So you start learning about what you're capable of, and how your practice affects off the mat as well. So like I said before, I got into it and I was quite competitive. wanting to copy all of these poses that I've seen. You know, when I went to my first in-person class, I was looking around the room and like, oh my God, she can do that. I should be able to do that. Why can't I do that? And then I thought, right, take this off of the mat. I'm a bit like that in my life as well. Like if I see somebody doing something, not necessarily competitive, but I'm like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. My mind is always going. And that is what I found on the mat. So when I'm doing my yoga and I'm trying to slow down my mind, I noticed that it was starting to happen outside of the mat as well. So like, I'm not so, well, I'm still a bit competitive, but I'm not so wanting to do absolutely everything I can. I know when to say, no, I've done enough now. Like, I'm happy where I am.
So it sounds like it's helped you find more balance.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's another thing that I want my teaching to be about as well, is because of all the competitive stuff and all the stuff that I got into before, like the vinyasa yoga. So that's breath with movement. So it's quite fast paced and it's kind of like a dancey flow. And then on my yoga teacher training, there was a lot of talk about yin yoga. So yin yoga, you hold the poses for about 5 minutes at a time. It's a long time to just sit and let everything go. And it was incredible. And that was definitely what I needed. And yeah, that has definitely helped me off of the mat as well. I would say I'm a completely different person to what I am now compared to before doing yoga at all.
So you mentioned a few different types of yoga then. So this might be a big question. Is there lots of different types of yoga?
There are a lot of different types of yoga, yeah. Yeah, there are so many. I think the main ones are Hatha yoga, so I kind of do it so you got Vinyasa yoga, which is movement with breath. So you do like a sun salutation where you like inhale up, exhale down.
I know that one.
Yeah, that's Vinyasa. And then you got Hatha yoga where you're kind of holding the poses for about 5 breaths. So that's a lot of strength based, holding the poses. Then you got Yin where you're holding the poses for about 5 minutes. So it's not necessarily restorative because it can be very hard poses that you're holding for 5 minutes, but Yin gets more into the fascia, into the muscles, and it's releasing a lot of energy. That's where you're going to gain your flexibility from Yin. And then you've got restorative, which, is completely blissful and you're in these amazing positions that just feel great. And yeah, and then obviously you've got like all the different ones like hot yoga, power yoga. There are a million different types of yoga.
Okay, so where would you say your yoga sits with all of that then? If someone's going to join like your class, where are you in that spectrum of all of these things?
So I do Vinyasa and Yin. So I've got the fast-paced with the slow-paced. So a lot of my clients are wanting specific poses, I would say, like, wanting to nail a certain pose, which is where the Vinyasa comes in. And then Yin for the stress, for the calmness. So I do like to do on my live classes, I do like half an hour of Vinyasa, which is more fast paced, get the heart rate up, and then half an hour of Yin to bring it all back down. So I do think that you need that kind of balance. I know a lot of people when they first start yoga, if they are quite people into fitness, they might want to skip the Shavasana, which is completely the whole point of yoga is the Shavasana, to calm the mind at the end. So yeah, I like adding the Yin in there to bring them down, even if they don't know that they are kind of calming themselves down, if that makes sense. Yeah,
well, it sounds like you balance, it's that word again, that you get a real mix of the fitness element and that you are, you're doing all the things that you want to be achieving with doing some form of exercise. But the meditative state, the spiritual side is important to you, and important that you pass that on to your clients. So being able to, because it is really important that we balance physical health and mental health. So to get that all in one class, feels like you're getting a 2-for-1.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people struggle with calming the mind down, which is where I think the yin helps, because it can be pretty uncomfortable if you're stuck in a pose for 5 minutes and maybe there's not much talking and you're just on the mat with yourself for a couple of minutes. I think it's really, really great for people to learn about themselves.
And I imagine quite powerful from an emotional perspective as well. I work with the philosophy that the body holds like stress, trauma, emotions. So when you're working physically in that way, but you're also in a space where you're checking in with your body, you're checking in with your mind, I would imagine that you can have that physical, emotional release.
Definitely, yeah. And that's one reason that my YouTube is I've put it in the chakra system as well, because if you're going to work on the second chakra, which is located like in the pelvis, you're opening that area that's full of emotions there. So if you're going to do some hip works, like opening the hips and working on your flexibility, because you're opening that chakra and it kind of lets the energy flow, you're letting out these emotions, and it's not rare for people to break down in tears on the yoga mat, because suddenly all these emotions just come flooding up. And I think that's the great thing about it. And I think that's when people start to get into the more spiritual side of it, because they're like, whoa, what just happened? And then they want to find out more.
Yeah, and it's just so important, I think, to kind of bring that mind body connection together, especially in today's society. I feel like we are quite disconnected from that. That we either focus on a spiritual journey that takes us off to wherever we go, or perhaps we'll focus on a physical journey, and then it all comes together. There'll come a point where perhaps we realize that, okay, this one way of thinking isn't working, so bringing it all together, it's important, isn't it? And I think, like, one of the things that you mentioned before is about, like, we're always on our phones and stuff like that. So who would you say that you kind of target towards? Are you trying to get more younger people involved, more people, or is it just people that have never experienced yoga, like, come along and let me teach you the ways?
I think I'm kind of based on, I guess, people who, well, there's that word again, balance. People who do feel unbalanced. It's people who feel maybe a little bit lost, a little bit stuck. Young mums especially. It's because I know that when I had my daughter, and you feel a bit lost. You're like, I'm now just a mum. I don't know who I am again. So it's definitely based on trying to get people to find their true selves again. So trying to figure out themselves. And I think that's definitely with people who do feel a little bit lost, definitely people who have never done yoga before, because that's the kind of people I want to show this magic to. It's like, it was such a magical feeling for me when I got into it, that it's like, I need to share this with people. So, anybody who hasn't done it, I think could really benefit from the vinyasa and the yin, putting them together, seeing the benefits of both of them. And I mean, I'm not a qualified kids yoga teacher, but definitely kids need this. If this was in schools, my God, the world would be a different place, definitely.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. Mindfulness is such an important tool for managing, like, anxiety, stress, depression. If we were equipped with these skills from a young age, our adulthood would be so different.
Definitely. It's like they don't understand how to see themselves, how to understand their emotions, how to deal with their emotions.
I agree. It's and a topic that I will go off and ramble on about for hours. So let's keep it to yoga today. So is there anything else that you kind of think, like, someone who has never heard of yoga before, that you'd want them to know, want them to come away from today, listening to today, to be like, yeah?
I would like them to think that yoga is for anybody. Yoga is, it doesn't matter if you're into fitness, if you're not into fitness, if you're spiritual or not spiritual. I feel like anybody who goes to yoga class, they are all going to come out with a completely different view. If you're more into the spiritual side, you're going to pick up more of the spiritual side as you're in the class. If you're into the fitness, you know, you're going to work a little bit harder. It's, you go into yoga class and it's like you take out what you need. So yeah, I would just say try it, but also try different teachers, because everybody teaches different as well. And one teacher that you, maybe if you didn't like their class, maybe you go to somebody else and absolutely love it. I've definitely done that before. It's just what resonates with you. And yeah, I feel like you take what you need from it.
And that's what it's about, really, isn't it? Any of these kind of practices, it's finding the right person that resonates for you. If you go to one yoga class with one yoga teacher and you hate it, you don't necessarily hate yoga. That class, that teacher wasn't the right one for you. So kind of, I guess, keep your mind open and look around a little bit more.
Definitely. And that's what's good about YouTube as well. You know, there's so many teachers on there. It's, yeah, you're bound to find one.
Absolutely. Well, I will be popping all of your links into the description. So anyone that's kind of interested in what you've talked about today and feels like, you know, like that you resonate and that they would like to check you out, the YouTube channel will be there. So if this feels all right for you, feels like a good time to finish, is that okay?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming and being my guest today. So even though I've been on your YouTube and I have looked around, it's been really interesting and quite inspiring to hear a little bit more and like understand a little bit more. I feel like quite like, oh yeah, I need to get back on there and try one of the longer classes.
Yeah, and I think as well, actually, something is online can feel a little bit different to in person as well. So if you try one online that you don't like, maybe go to in person and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. Just give it a try and give it a try again. Don't just write it off straight away. All right.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me today.
Okay. Thank you.